Yeah.
All right. Welcome to the Pure Conversation podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Miller. This week's guest is CEO of Buyboxer, host of the Smartest Amazon Seller podcast, and an Amazon seller who has done more than 300 million in sales, Scott Needham. Buyboxer is a company which created the Amazon seller tool Smart Scout, which is challenging many of the other mainstream Amazon tools for sellers. Thank you so much for joining us. To tell me, what was your first, how did you originally get into the Amazon field? What brought you into the Amazon space?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Joseph. So, actually, when I started on Amazon, I was living in DC. So on the East Coast. Now I'm in Salt Lake, closer to our headquarters. But that's relevant because so my brother took our family's brick and mortar store, and he was just trying to grow it, just do whatever he could. This is about 2011. And he found that, if he threw a few listings on Amazon, like he was able to get some sales. And, you could work your butt off in a retail storefront and grow your sales maybe 5, 10, 15%. You really have to work for that. But he found on Amazon, if he worked really hard, he was able to double his business. That was kind of the scale that he was able to accomplish. And so he started telling me about his problems of, there was no tools available in at this time. There's maybe a
When
few
was
tools that
this?
were for, say
How
what?
long? When was this? Like around what year?
So this is about 2012. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was maybe a few tools here and there that were really geared towards booksellers, because booksellers actually kind of pioneered the marketplace. And but so when he was having all these problems with growing, figuring out like what of his sales were profitable, which ones weren't, how much products to reorder, he was spending dozens of hours creating purchase orders, just like so much time to create one purchase order because you got so many numbers to crunch. And and I was working for a government agency developing software out in DC. And when I was like, well, you just need to automate this. You need some technology. And so I quit that job and partnered with him full time to just take this idea and scale it. And I mean, it was awesome. Like that first year was unreal to be able to make changes, to like automate certain parts of the business. And, it allowed for us to like double and triple in growth for those first years. And I mean, I thought the potential was infinite, but the truth is I got grounded in reality at some point. You figure out that you have to have good accounting to figure out how profitable you are. We made a lot of mistakes, even though we were able to grow, and like we did make, money that allowed us to do that. But that didn't stop us from making plenty of mistakes on the way. And I've uh, really, it's kind of crazy. Here I am 8 years later, really still learning so much about Amazon and um, changing the way that we are selling. And um, one of the things that I did when I was like, hey, there's different ways to organize this data that no one's created out there. And so we rolled that up into Smart Scout. That was something that we built in 2017 to like internally. We built something that helped us organize like kind of a map of Amazon, so to speak, organized around brands and sellers. And then I was like, well, I've got this podcast. This is this audience, and I think this tool can get sharper and sharper. And so to make a long story short, like that is the kind of the story of where we started and how we got to right here.
So essentially, what you're saying is that to get that the two businesses, both the Smart Scout app and the and I guess your individual seller business are really one and the same in that they more or less the Smart Scout was your strategy to getting to 100 million or to 300 million.
Yeah, yeah. So there's an interesting problem if you are in wholesale in this idea that that there's always a better brand out there that you should be searching for. That the next brand that you find is going to be the one that like makes the difference. And I mean, that's something that like nagged at me just hearing that and feeling like, okay, we're one more away from like just like really finding profitable products. And I kind of wanted an answer to that question. I'd be like, well, of all the brands out there, which, there really are thousands. There are thousands of brands, even tens of thousands. But of those, which ones are worth our time? If I could just boil that down to the top 100 in terms of like brands that don't sell to Amazon directly, brands that have good sell through. They're achieving a monthly sales of say 500,000 or 1 million across their authorized sellers. So if I could whittle that down to 100, how would I do that? Well, first you have to download all that data. You have to like scour Amazon and then kind of I guess like the Smart Scout secret in a way is like we're the first ones to like organize it with a brand focus. So, we all know Helium 10 and Jungle Scout, they're really good at like product analysis. And the truth is I don't go head, Smart Scout doesn't go head to head with them in that. It doesn't really focus on product analysis, but rather it focuses a little bit more on like brand analysis. And so that's what that we focus on. Because as a seller, that's what was kind of a limiting factor for us.
So would you say that you look more for existing brands and SKUs on Amazon, or do you try to look for brands that say don't have such a strong presence, but being that there are their type of items or in their niche items, you want to bring them
Yeah.
onto Amazon. So which strategy do you primarily?
Well, what we've had most success with is uh, with the brands that already have a good presence. We don't have, sorry, back in 2012, 2013, we didn't have like a marketing team. We didn't have, you know, the capabilities to like take a lot of pictures and, get all that content ready and right and kind of promote it. And so we just always, used the work of other sellers and found the good opportunities and joined them on those listings. That is definitely a very popular strategy. It's sometimes the easiest strategy, but you bring up a good point that it very well is a very good strategy to find the underserved brands and potentially create new product pages, new bundles around these, and maybe even optimize their pages. Those are less competitive, and so oftentimes you can get a higher margin. So, there's definitely more than one way to approach this. This is just what like helped us grow faster, so to speak, because we didn't have to invest that time. We could buy a product and sell it within a few weeks, are brand new to us. And that was kind of our approach.
Got it. Now, a lot of what Amazon seems to be doing, and certainly if you read the Amazon seller forums, a lot of what's, the tumult is about where people think Amazon is heading seems to be towards more private labeled and in-house branding. A lot of the features. So does that worry you? Do you have any thoughts about that?
Let's get the elephant in the room. 2020 with COVID was phenomenal for wholesalers. It was a good year. And it was like, we obviously know why because of COVID, but it definitely strengthened a lot of like those that had already been in wholesale, got to reap a lot of those advantages and still kind of do. So, to answer that question, I do feel though that I see a lot of wholesalers that they know that they have to add value to their brands. They have to invest in better product pages, and um, and maybe even be a little bit more creative with their bundling. I know many sellers that they generally are wholesale in nature. They're branded products, but they act a lot like private label in the way that they treat their listings. They invest in them. They turn it into more of a relationship where they are, they're advertising in PPC. They're taking better photos. They're in line with the brand and talking with them of like how they can kind of get more exposure on Amazon. So there's just always I think if you're improving the ecosystem of Amazon, there's always going to be a space for you. But you probably can't do what you could do 7 years ago, where you approach a brand, you don't even tell them that you're selling on Amazon. You say like, hey, I just want to buy your products wholesale, and they'll just do that. That's kind of not able to work anymore, because these brands know that like Amazon represents, a large chunk of sales. And so they'll ask you like, well, why would I sell to you when I can sell directly, or we already have our authorized sellers. And so that, makes wholesalers like ourselves have to provide services. So, a brand that comes to mind that we've had success with this last Christmas was Bondic. We, based off of our, website presence. I mean, our website, buyboxer.com, it's not like super impressive, but it's something. And it allows people to come learn a little bit about us. And we basically won them by being very responsive. They said that they wanted an authorized seller, and that their existing one, it didn't seem like that they weren't in line with them. And we've just over delivered on everything they've asked. We've enrolled their products in transparency. We've gotten brand registry. We've had to navigate problems. The truth is, yesterday I hired a consultant to help with one of their ASINs, and that they got shut down. And
just so people know, ASINs, not all. This isn't necessarily a Amazon specific podcast, but an ASIN is something where is a listing, sort of like a SKU or a UPC code, which an internal Amazon code for each item.
It's like it's Amazon's identification number. It signifies a product. And so sometimes when we see an ASIN, it's kind of synonymous with a SKU. It's kind of just like a product page. And
sorry, I cut you off.
So yeah, no. I was just finally saying like, if you were to like try and steal away Bondic from us, like zero chance, because of, we're talking with them every day, and I know how much value that we bring and what we do. And this brand is quite significant. They do a tremendous amount of volume in Q4, and we were in the right place at the right time, and we had the right service. And so we don't own this brand, but we're definitely able to profit a lot by acting a little bit more like a private label seller.
It's very interesting you say that. It seems to me also with many of my other products I'm dealing with, like for example, right now I'm dealing with a protein bar brand, and when I was speaking on the phone with them, it seemed like as well they were interested on making some sort of presence on e-commerce, but they didn't want to necessarily they didn't want tons of people selling it. They wanted to either be the people selling it or be next to the people selling it. And in a certain sense, I was thinking, when I compare that to some of my other better selling products that I have literally done thousands of a week, it came to my mind that like, well, what would happen to me if the brands that I've been doing my business for so long with, where I'm competing with 20 other people on a listing, what would happen if those brands went to someone else and said, or decided themselves in-house, maybe what if we want to sell it, or even worse, they went to Amazon directly and decided, you know what, we're going to sell it for, significantly cheaper than anyone else. And that it kind of blocks you out of almost the whole industry. So for the tools that you were speaking of and the tools out there, what do you think the average, or what do you think the forward thinking seller should be doing? Should they be approaching brands? Should they be private labeling? Do you think that it's going to be more away from arbitrage? Is that what you think things are
Well,
going?
um, so one thing that helps to understand, I think, this is just to appreciate how big Amazon is. Like, there really are tens of thousands of sellers that have achieved scale that are doing over $1 million. And a lot of those do retail arbitrage, a lot of those do wholesale, and a lot of those do private label. If it's reasonable to think that one may be growing, but I don't think the others are going away. Um, it, it, like retail is just kind of like uh, uh, it's just a unique business where, um, these brick and mortar stores, they sell at a price that they want to sell at, when people online might be willing to spend a lot more. During COVID, people were willing to spend about 3 or 4 times more for a product online than they were like in person. And maybe that won't be as exaggerated in the future, but I mean, um, but people will still pay a premium to have it delivered to them, and to have the simplicity of Amazon. So I really think that retail arbitrage and wholesale are going to stick around. Are they going to grow as fast as private label? Probably not. If you're forward thinking, kind of the answer to your question, there is certainly the most long-term value is in private label. But if you wanted to make, a faster return on investment in the next 6 months, I mean, wholesale, you can turn inventory 3 times between in the next 6 months. Whereas private label, you're like, okay, you got to do a production run and you got to ship it overseas and you got to look at a sample and you got to figure out what optimizations and you got to do a launch strategy. It could take you a year just to get your money back. Whereas wholesale, you're making money, in the first 2 months. You're netting more. So I don't want to I don't think it's like a one is going to win. But it is absolutely no question clear that private label has the highest long term, like creating your own brand and getting a position on Amazon where you own, that territory. That is the most valuable part, especially when you see the marketplace and you're like, I think this market needs, an additional product. You we do have some private label products, and like I'm dumb enough to tell people what they are. If you type in dinner bell, we have the top dinner bell. We saw. I shouldn't say we. I should say my cousin. I ended up acquiring this business from my cousin, but I've worked with him over the years. But he just saw that there was opportunities in dinner bells, and so
What's a dinner
he
bell?
yeah, like it's, something that's just decorative for a home. It's home decor. It's functional. He got a good design and invested in decent marketing, and it was a significant part of his business once he landed that, and definitely much more passive income once you get, once you wait the 6 to 12 months, and those reviews start coming in, and so um,
But what about issues from, say, the supply side, where there used to be, I would say, even 2 years ago when I first got into Amazon, there was almost a taboo among top tier companies to either sell on Amazon or to sell to Amazon to sell, or have Amazon sell for them. Now I find it's definitely new companies are in-house, begin to sell. And the older companies, more mainstream companies that are the top of their industries are looking to either partner with someone to sell to Amazon or even bring a team to sell themselves. So from the supply side, do you think there's going to be any issues, or are you saying just at this point the market's so big, there are so many companies, not everyone's going to have the wherewithal to to cut off the supply chain and take care of it more directly?
So, I mean, there's still, let's see, there's two ways to answer it. Where is it now and where is it going? Um, right now, there really are thousands of brands. I was actually impressed by this myself. I didn't expect it to be this high. But when I was using Smart Scout, I looked at a category beauty and I was like, okay, show me all the beauty brands that are doing over $100,000 a month that aren't selling to Amazon retail. And then I filtered out like those that are likely selling directly themselves. There were still, over 1,000 brands just in beauty that met that criteria. And so there's a ton of supply right now. I feel strongly about that. And but there is this idea that like brands are getting more involved in Amazon, and I'm like, my brother's been harping this for years. He's like, brands are the future. And he's like, and then I'm actually seeing the present. What does that look like? What does it look like right now um, that brands are embracing Amazon? I don't go to trade shows or engage with people that, uh, I'm very active in the Amazon community. I talk to a lot of other professionals, talk to a lot of other agencies, and I don't really usually interact with brands. What I'm finding though is that all of these brands are hiring agencies to do their work for them. So there's been a huge rise in agencies. There's hundreds. I mean, there's probably only 30 to 50 that are like bigger agencies. But when you start to include those agencies of 1 to 10 employees, then there's definitely a few hundred. And these people are working with agencies that just want Amazon expertise. They want, uh, I showed up at a brand last Friday, and this brand is, they're venture backed and they do really well direct to consumer, but they have no Amazon presence. And they're just like, well, we just want a full service agency just to handle this for us. And so that's what it looks like when brands are selling on Amazon. And so if you are wanting to work with these brands, like just understand that if you start to walk and talk a little bit more like an agency, um, they're going to listen to you. If you're very knowledgeable about it, then they're going to listen to you. And so you can even chase two different business models. You can do the agency side where you get a percentage of their sales that you manage for them, or you can offer the retail services where like, well, I'll buy your stuff wholesale and be your authorized seller on Amazon. And then you take your margin that way. Buyboxer actually does both of those. And so uh, do I think this is a fit for everyone to do both? Probably not everyone. No. If you've got one that you're lasered in on, then get good at that. Um, but for the thousands of brands, each one of them has a different strategy, and so you could try and adapt to them to work with them.
What challenges, does Buy Boxer face right now? And more broadly speaking, what challenges do you see specifically coming up with Amazon?
So, traditionally we've had a lot of challenges. Uh, we definitely have had some challenges with Amazon's compliance. Being a large seller, you have large exposure. We have a lot of ASINs that can get shut down for this or that. Our shipping, we can get shipping violations, and they cut off our shipping. We've been suspended our selling privileges have been suspended. And so like, we're always very mindful. That's a huge challenge that we've had. In a lot of ways, we've overcome it by getting more knowledge. And I'd actually say we've overcome it in a few ways. Like I sleep better at night because we've gotten better. Amazon's gotten better. And then also there's consultants out there that specialize in helping sellers stay compliant. And yeah, that's obviously a clear challenge to selling on Amazon. Another challenge that we have is, and I'll be transparent about like, our agency is like, we've had a hard time winning a lot of, sizable clients. We've done very well with the small to middle sized, and they've been, they've been all right, but but I know there's home runs out there, and I know we can win them, but we are just missing, a few key ingredients. If I were to say like, how could we win more? I would say two things. One, our website just needs to be sharper, more dynamic. Like it right now, it's just very like static, just shows a little bit. But I think if we invested into our website and made us feel way more authoritative, I think that would help win over in some conversations. And then to couple that, a very solid business development strategy, and invest in generating more of these leads so that they come to us, because there are brands that are looking for help, and we don't have a good enough fishing net to catch them all. And so if I were to spend, if I were to like want to laser in on this business for the next 6 months and really juice it, I would tackle that. And we're doing a little bit here, but I know there's way more we can do. It's just a challenge.
Very interesting. I personally have found the biggest challenge is always just, and I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but I found that recently a lot of my products, or a lot of selling products, Amazon has come out with certain products that are eerily similar to these top selling products. And I personally found that it very well could be that Amazon is looking into some of the data. I don't know if it's necessarily my data specifically, but the general data of products, top tier products, and
Yeah.
coming out with their own.
Yeah. All right. Do you do private label yourself, or are you?
I'm in the beginning of private label. These are name brands. I don't want to say them quite
Okay.
yet, but
Yeah. No. So let's see. Yeah, Amazon's private label is a threat, but that at the end, a lot of the data, I'm not as paranoid about Amazon reading our data, because I also can read a lot of Amazon data.
Yeah.
You can use a lot of tools. I provide one, but there's a lot of tools to like really understand data, enough data to make decisions, enough to be like, okay, here's this branded product. It's super expensive. I know that we can establish a private label that just beats it. And that does happen. And so I'm not worried about Amazon's data as like a super competitive advantage. I am a little bit more worried about if they are offering themselves unique placement opportunities that, or advertising opportunities that, other sellers don't get. So that's a little bit more what I worry about. And I mean, this is a game that, this it's survival of the fittest. The best products, the best price, the best marketing will come out on top. Consumers choose that. Consumers are ultimately the ones that are choosing. If Amazon, I know some segments where like people are like just not worried at all about Amazon private label. They've seen them try and they're like, you guys messed up. But there's other segments where like they nail it. For example, batteries. Amazon's basics and batteries, they're just beating everyone and beating them in price and value.
I don't
And
want to badmouth Amazon's, but I would not say in value. They go out pretty quickly. They're not like Duracell or the other brands.
okay, then
And
they'll get bad reviews for that.
Duracell, please feel free to send us some money. Sorry.
Yeah, I know, right?
Hmm.
Duracell still has a stronger name. If Duracell were to invest, heck yeah, they can go toe to toe with Amazon.
Exactly. Yeah. What do you think about other platforms? Specifically Walmart has recently opened up. But before it was a lot harder to get into, but in the last year, it really opened up
Yeah.
to other sellers. Do you think the future is going to be for Amazon for sellers is going to be a multifaceted, or do you think Amazon's still like the dominant? Like Walmart is not really the place to be.
Well, I didn't take Walmart seriously at all until they put together Walmart fulfillment services.
Hmm.
When they did that, I'm like, okay, Walmart, like you're starting to get it. You have to invest a lot into your marketplace. But still, I know onboarding to Walmart fulfillment services isn't just like completely open season. People have struggled with it. In a lot of ways, they're just years behind Amazon. You know, would Walmart would Walmart's fulfillment services be able to double in size in a year? I doubt it. I doubt that
Really?
they have. Um, I'm referring to their logistics, not
Hmm.
their ability of a marketplace
Uh,
to turn a lot of products. I'm saying their logistics that
mhm.
they do to support. That's warehousing, that's 2-day shipping, nationwide. Can they go toe to toe with Amazon? I don't think they can right now. Um, I haven't seen enough investment. I've heard many people try to get into Walmart fulfillment services. Sorry, FBW, fulfilled by Walmart. I've heard a lot of people try to
Mhm.
get into it and they can't. So they're a little bit behind there. But what Walmart does have that should always be attractive is search volume. If people are searching for products on Walmart, you know, there's value in that. In some ways, it's like, I'm not sure if you're familiar, like how Bing, the search engine, gets only a few percentage points of search. Google gets like 90%, and Bing gets about, I don't know, 5 to 10%. But that 5-10% is actually meaningful enough. You see people still wanting to spend money advertising on Bing, because you kind of, there's less competition, there's uh, less sophistication on the competitors. So if there is search volume on Walmart, it's valuable. And maybe you're doing $1 million on Amazon. Well, if you can do 100 to 200,000 on Walmart, that's valuable. That's diversification. Um, and so I definitely see a strong play there. Uh, but a bigger threat to Amazon is probably Shopify. Um, if Shopify, the more it streamlines and makes easy to onboard, and logistics and marketing and selling on that represents brands starting to favor their own website, their own direct to consumer website, because they don't have to pay the Amazon tax of 15%. They get to keep the consumer's information. So I certainly think that there's some very good options outside of Amazon. Uh, and if I, to be honest, like I know I need to figure these out a little bit more. I've sold on Walmart, but I haven't really tried to scale Shopify, and it's pretty attractive.
At this point, what I really appreciate about Walmart, unfortunately, I haven't been able to figure out how to get it to scale the same way as Amazon. But I found about Walmart is you could literally create a Shopify store and then have everything just forced onto Walmart, pushed onto Walmart. It's and the best part is, as you said, I have instead of having to go to so many third-party people to get my data, instead of having to spend so much time thing on research, because Walmart is more or less Shopify in that it's 100% integrated. It's so much more I'd say seller centric in that you have access to your data, you have access to their data without skipping any steps, and it's easy to contribute and to read that data. I find that the most difficult thing about Walmart though is that you don't have independence. You cannot create your own listing if you're a private labeler unless you have a formal unless you have a really you have real registered products. It's not so simple to create things, even bundles. I tried creating bundles for certain things that I was very successful on Amazon. Walmart, no matter, would not help me or do anything with the bundles. Now I perceive that to change, but it's hard for me to imagine really getting nearly as many as, like you said. I could only see it being like the Google Bing situation. I don't see it. I can't see them right now the way I'm using it, the way from my experience being
Yeah.
equals.
Well, I mean, COVID was great for Walmart because, as things stocked out on Amazon, people turned to what was available. So it's kind of like 2020 allowed anyone that was doing anything in e-commerce, any initiative, they all worked.
Mhm.
They all were like, okay, yeah. I mean, that is kind of the e-commerce opportunity that we're talking about. And it certainly is exciting. Um, and like you said, yeah, like I am intrigued by Shopify. If you were to add to that, uh, even social commerce is a new way for brands to grow, whether that's Instagram or even TikTok. What better way for like where people are spending hours of their time now. If you're able to put together the 1-2 punch of showing off a cool product in a cool way and then quickly easily buying it, whether that is through Shopify or another channel, I think that you're going to see brands uh, using that quite a bit. I mean, we had a product that went viral on TikTok, actually Bondic, as I was talking about. It went viral on TikTok, and boy, did we see the sales come through. We were barely ready for like what was coming at us, and it was kind of insane. The what TikTok, what 1 million views on TikTok represented in revenue. So there's
Can I
certainly.
question what? Or is that too much
Oh,
private?
oh yeah. So like this was actually a week before Black Friday, so we
Mm.
were kind of prepared for like a growth in sales, some spikes. Um, but it was a week before, and then all of a sudden, a Friday afternoon at 5 p.m., I get a text from someone like saying, "Hey, I just saw this on TikTok," and sure enough, it already had amassed about 1 million views, and I could see our sales on Amazon like, just like. I don't see that often. Our sales are just very normal day to day. We do our normal amount of sales. It's really hard to influence it unless you got like a Black Friday like event. But this was a Friday night. Sales just really ticked up, and we did in revenue approximately 300,000 in about 4 days.
Oh wow.
And we had to play catch up for a while. Now I'll be transparent that our margins aren't huge on this brand. That's one of the reasons why this brand likes us. They know our margins, and we're making 10 to 15% margins on that. But like it did represent an opportunity. And here's something funny: is I created a duet on TikTok about that very same product. And I was like, hey, this TikTok's gone crazy. Look what it's done to our business. And I showed like a bunch of like printing rolls just scrolling down of like all these like shipments that we got going out. And that video got 500,000 views. So I mean, if you're in private label and if your product lends itself well to video and it's got a wow factor, you know, I do think that there's an opportunity there.
Wow. Thank you very much for joining us. For all the listeners out there, make sure to check out the Smartest Amazon Seller podcast. It's really good. He also has a YouTube channel. And also, if you're an Amazon seller, definitely, personally, as an Amazon seller myself, check out SmartScout at smartscoutpro.com. It's a really great tool. Um,
Yep.
it's pulling me away from a lot of my other a lot of my the other tools I'm currently using. And thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for joining us. Oh, and while you're on YouTube
That's
and in podcast land, make sure to check out the Pure Conversation podcast as well. Thank you very much. Right here.